Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. You are about to watch an interview, but before we do that, I just wanted to give a little spotlight to the first venue that we're hosting this weekend's events at. It's called Jules Maes Saloon. I'm blocking it with the. There we go. It'll be right here. I'll put it right here. Jules Maes Saloon. They were so gracious to have us, so I just wanted to introduce y'all to the owner.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Roche, owner of Jules Maes. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about the place?
So Jules Maes is the oldest bar in Seattle. And, sorry, I'm just totally blanking.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine.
I took over in 2020. It has been a venue for quite a few years. It was actually closed down for a little bit, but we brought it back to life. They used to have like boxing back here. This was a speakeasy back in the day. So I don't know if when you take footage, that door over there is like a speakeasy door. So yeah, they used to have boxing fights. Jules Maes was, like they called him the governor of, or the mayor of Georgetown. Back in the day, he used to sell cider and other stuff through the back door.
Exciting.
Yeah, during Prohibition. So through the years, it's just kind of stuck as Jules Maes as the oldest bar, and we've brought it back to the venue.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I mean, y'all do so many things.
We do a ton of things. We've got drag shows, punk shows, rock shows, old-timer shows.
That's awesome.
We just had Hunk Fest last night, which was great. Marching bands coming through here and everything. So,
nice.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Nice. Now, I know you're busy, so I'm only going to ask a couple more quick questions here. Tell us about a really fun show that happened here.
Nox Vocula was here. I was actually at home. I had broken my arm, and so I wasn't able to get down here. But it was like there was no room anywhere in this bar.
That's
it was
amazing.
So packed in here, and they were such a great group. But yeah, I was watching on my camera, or on my cameras at home from my phone.
Yeah.
And everybody was just having such a good time, and it was so great to see like the liveliness back, because since COVID, it's been hard to get people in. People are kind of afraid to be in, close contacts and stuff like that. So it was really good to see it like alive again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, these last two questions are recurring questions we ask everybody. So I'm going to tie them together. First one was, what was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh boy. With my own money. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I remember like I won a Prince like 3D set.
Okay.
From I don't know, 1077 or something like that when I was young. That's probably the first one that I remember. And then my mom had Duran Duran. So I remember that.
Yeah, perfect. All right, and then just the last one to close it up. What is your guilty pleasure song?
Oh boy. Oh gosh, I can't think of it. It's such a one-hit wonder. Oh, I can't think of it right now. I'm sorry. Totally throw me off. Okay, so how about I'll go with Salisbury Hill. I love Salisbury Hill.
Okay. And can you tell the people at home who may not know who it's by?
Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and officially get on into the interview. Make sure to tune in to the end of tomorrow's episode to find out what big things they have coming up next and when we wrap up here. Let's go ahead and get on into it. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here at the Jules Maes Saloon, which I'll put right in this space right here, boop, because the sign's way up there inside a frame. But I want to make sure that we shout out where we're at. Super excited to be here. We're going to go ahead and forgo the usual intros because we want to get right into it. So here is our very first guest of the week.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hagen Glynn. I'm a music photographer here in Seattle, Washington.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very happy to have you here. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you do, and just any other fun facts you'd like us to know.
Sure. I'm originally from Washington and moved around a lot in my younger days, but we've been back in Seattle for almost a decade now. And
wow.
yeah, it's great to be back. It feels like home. And
Yes.
I've got friends and family here.
All right. And what got you into photography?
Sure. I would say my parents, both of my folks like to shoot a lot of pictures themselves. And
okay.
I know my father was very invested in teaching me photography when I was young. So yeah, I got to try out his cameras, and that was all in the film days. But did a lot of film photography in high school and really enjoyed that. And then, of course, there was this huge transition all of a sudden to digital, and
Yes.
the world changed.
Yes. It's definitely a different experience out there now.
Absolutely.
What was the moment you decided you wanted to do this as a profession?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was a gradual process rather than just one moment. But I got back into photography after some time away. I was doing school, kind of busy, and picked up a camera again. This new digital technology, and was just really blown away by what cameras can do,
Yeah.
and being able to create art in a way that was really appealing, I think. So combining the technology with what I wanted to see, and yeah, so for me, that was the launching point back in, and from there it grew to different subjects. I had great mentors, and people giving feedback, making suggestions, saying, "Hey, have you tried this? Hey, you want to come with me on this adventure? Let's do this cool thing."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it grew from there.
Nice. Tell us about the first planned shoot that you ever did.
Oh gosh. That's a tough one. I can tell you about.
Let's do maybe the first big one.
Yeah. I can tell you about an adventure that was a whole lot of fun. And
Okay.
so this is a ghost town that is sinking into a swamp. And I won't give the name of the ghost town. As many abandoned places, they're not necessarily appropriate for people to be. But this is one that is surrounded by tides and train tracks. So it took a bit of planning to shoot this place at night, and that's really what I wanted to do. So I teamed up with some companions and went to this abandoned place at the full moon when the tides are the most
exciting.
discrepant. So yeah.
How exciting.
Got some cool shots there. Really enjoyed that.
Now, actually, and that kind of transitions into this next question. You have a lot of work available online, and I mean, and it's incredible. Y'all should definitely go check it out. We'll plug it at the end to make sure that you don't forget it now. But you mainly focus, it looks like, on show photography, floral macro photography, and then decaying building, worn out building photography.
Yes.
Do you do any kind of wedding or non-music event or portrait photography, or do you really like to stick to the more what you enjoy visually and artistically?
Sure. Yeah. I don't usually do weddings. I do events if they're connected with music most commonly. And I don't do portraits except for band portraits and just sort of incidental at shows.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, that is your main space then is always existing around music related things.
Most of the time. Yeah. I do a little bit of fine art photography too, and just love flower season, which we're in the middle of right now. But yes, most of my time is spent in music photography.
Gotcha. Okay. And actually we're going to transition to a couple music related questions, as that is the format of the show. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh my gosh. Thinking back, well, there are some embarrassing ones in there as well, but I think it was Robert Plant, Now and Zen.
Okay.
A weird choice, maybe, but
I mean, not a bad first album. There have been some interesting ones on this show. That's a recurring question we ask everybody, and so it's always fun to see. But that's actually a pretty good one.
Well, thanks.
And then, what was the first show you ever attended, just as an attendee? What was the first one you went to of your own accord? It's not when you were where your mom took you to the fair when you were 7, but the first show you went to as a patron.
Sure. I remember the one that I went to with my family, and I think that was my biggest first concert, and that was Neil Young as part of a festival. Yeah, yeah.
Now, is your family fairly music oriented?
I will say they've done a lot of listening, and we don't listen to all of the same things, but I really I think took away some of their tastes and combined them with my own, and we've gone in different directions, but certainly that foundation was there. I appreciated their record collection and their support. They allowed me to play music throughout my childhood, and that is something I've really carried with me into adulthood.
Yeah. Now, do you play any instruments?
I used to. Yeah, I used to play a whole lot all the way through college. And from there sort of fell off just because grad school took a lot of time.
Yes. And hobbies are expensive. It's hard to it's hard to do all of the things all of the time if you want to do one of them full on, as we've learned. All right, now we've dug into a little bit of your foundation. So let's move on to the present. We're about halfway through the year. Mm-hmm. How many shoots do you think you've done so far?
That's a great question. I haven't counted this year, but this time last year, I think I'd done probably 100 already.
Wow.
I ended up with about 200 separate shows last year and some festivals and everything else.
That's
so I'm not
amazing.
there often. Thanks.
And tell us about one of your, I know you kind of did this earlier, but since you talked about one of your more favorite shoots, tell us about one where everything just kind of went off the rails, where you're if it was an unsuccessful one, you don't have to talk about it, but one where just everything was going wrong, but in the end you still you got the shot and everything turned out.
Oh, that's a great question. I think thinking generally, the ones that are the most challenging are where you have unclear instructions, or I know I've had instances where someone at the door has told me one thing, I get to the pit, totally different instructions. I had someone come up and grab my camera lens saying, "You're not supposed to be here, and you're in the wrong spot." And that was, it's very traumatic to, have broken the rules unintentionally.
Yeah, and then they get chastised for it.
Right.
Oh man, that's never any fun.
No.
All right. Now, you've been doing this for quite some time. Tell us about your first main piece of gear that you used, and then subsequently tell us about what you use now.
Oh, sure. I think when I finally got the digital SLR, that launched me into a different part of my career. Just that flexibility, the range of possibilities just opened up in a way that I had never had before. And it was just so exciting. The first day that I had that new DSLR was so frustrating and so intimidating, but a few shoots later, some more practice, some more feedback, and anything was possible. The gear has gotten so good these days. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And what do you use now? What is your main camera that you use, or do you use multiple cameras?
I pretty much stick to one at a time at this point, but right now I'm shooting a Canon R6 Mark II. So a digital camera.
So we're going to edit that to say Sony. No, I'm kidding.
Get your sponsors lined up here.
All right. Now, as this kind of goes outside the realm of actually working on them. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of stuff. You're an entrepreneur. You have a heavy demanding business. What do you do for a strong work-life balance? Do you take your camera with you and shoot just for fun? Or do you like to leave it at home when you go to the beach and just kind of exist without it in your hand?
Oh, yeah. I will say I have a strong work balance these days. I don't know if that's a good thing or a not so good thing, but I'm certainly enjoying that change. I have a full-time day job and I have a full-time night job at this point.
Yep.
You can relate, I think.
Yep. Yes, I know exactly how that is.
So, yeah, I think that is part of my balance. I still find plenty of time for, exercise and seeing family and getting out and doing other things too. But I do bring my camera with me to many places. I bring it on walks. I mentioned those flowers.
Yep.
I'll just find flowers in the neighborhood and try not to creep out the neighbors too much.
I've noticed, especially as doing this has progressed, mm-hmm. most people when they see a person doing something with a camera now, mm-hmm. Excuse me, it's I think it's more like socially accepted. Back in the day, it was like it was strange if you were that person who like lived behind a camera all the time.
Yes.
But now it's almost become like socially acceptable, and it's a little more pleasing to see than like a phone.
Right.
So I think people like when I was walking around the building here, there were people that were definitely like they saw me and they like were polite about moving out of the way without acting like it was an inconvenience. So that's definitely kind of an interesting world shift.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, now let's. These next questions are going to be for the other photographers that watch the show, the gearheads. We talked about the camera you use differently. What do you? We talk about the camera you use regularly. What do you do differently for like indoor versus outdoor shoots?
Certainly a difference in ISO. My world is mostly indoors. Concerts are primarily indoors. So here we are.
Yes.
Very, very high ISO most of the time. It'll be the rare outdoor festival shoot where you're able to bring it way down. You've got an F8 and you're like, wow, what's all this depth of field all of a sudden? I'm not used to this. But yeah, very, very high ISO inside. And that's just it. You shoot wide open and try to bring in what light you can.
Okay. Now, when it comes to music shoots, when it comes to that is your main thing. What research do you like to do beforehand?
I try to go online and see if there are any videos of other shows along that tour, because it gives you a great idea of what you're likely to encounter.
Yeah.
You can see where the previous photographers were allowed to shoot. Is there going to be a pit? Are you going to be back at the soundboard trying to, pinpoint somebody way up?
Yeah, totally.
That sort of thing. And also just to see, bands repeat set lists pretty often.
Yes.
And so you can say, oh, okay, well, 5 out of 10 times, these are going to be the opening 3 that I'll get to shoot. So kind of plan for the colors, plan for the location, know if there's going to be a big moment that you don't want to miss.
Gotcha. And now when it comes to composing a shoot where you have creative liberties, how do you like to approach that? Like when you get like command over the situation, like what do you like to do to like make it your own or make it stand out?
I try to find a unique angle, shooting something, a detail that people wouldn't necessarily pick up on the first glance at the scene. That's especially possible when we're able to shoot more than just those first 3 tunes.
Yeah.
So if you get an open pit and license to shoot the whole show, possibilities just unfold in real time. You'll get the obvious shots, and then that gives you some time to think and say, well, what would it look like if I tried, over here? What would the behind shot look as opposed to the face shot?
Okay.
Sort of thing.
Now, I didn't realize when you're doing photography for shows and like bigger events, are you only limited to a certain amount of songs?
Yes.
Oh,
So the
that's
standard, most of the time, depends on the venue and the bands. But for most of the typical concerts that you would think of, it's first 3, no flash. So very, very limited. You have a short time to make the pictures that you want.
Now, after those 3, is it just no photography? Is that like they're just like, hey, we just don't want the cameras anymore?
Right. Much of the time, you have to put away the camera. Every once in a while, they'll let you shoot from the house the rest of the time. And
Gotcha.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that's really cool. I learned something new today, y'all. I hope you did too. And then lastly, is there any information you try to ask for ahead of time that makes things easier the day of?
Sure. If it's a shoot that I'm planning with someone, usually we'll talk about a shot list to make sure that you get everything that they have in mind. With a concert, there are usually very few rules.
Gotcha.
If I'm on assignment, editors don't have a whole lot to say about what I'm going to capture. They don't usually have a preconceived plan for the shoot. It's just, here's the assignment, here's the band.
They're like, you know what you're doing, we know what we're
Yeah.
doing, we don't know what you do, you don't know what we do. Let's make it all work.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's cool that it's interesting that you get all the kind of the creative liberties within that setting.
Yeah.
And that's really fun.
Yeah,
all right. Now these next ones, these are more hypothetical questions. We're going to expand outside the realm of what's already happened or currently happening. If money and communication were no issue, who would you love to work with? And if it could be anywhere on the planet, because I'm going to shout out Zev every time he said the moon, and sound doesn't travel there. Thanks, Cameron, for telling me that piece of information. If money, space, time were no issue, who would you love to do a shoot for, and where would you love to do the shoot?
Wow. And people ask this question a whole lot, and I have such varied tastes and interests. It's always hard to narrow it down. I've already seen a lot of the people that I really idolize, but anything in jazz, seeing some of our jazz heroes, I think would be number one for me. A lot of these folks are, up in age, and we'll never get to see them again. One of these days they just won't be touring anymore.
Yeah.
So I know it was very special to see Herbie Hancock and to photograph him.
Incredible. Wow.
So yeah, along those lines, just the folks who won't be touring forever. That's the most meaningful to me.
Well, it's cool that you've already achieved some of those. Like, you know what I mean? Like I got to interview somebody that I was a big fan of a little while back, and I just remember that moment being really special. Yeah. And I can only imagine that was an incredible show.
Absolutely.
Are you familiar at all with Gregory Porter?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
He is just a phenomenal jazz vocalist.
Oh, great.
Like, I want to say, I'm trying to think of who he sounds like. Oh my God, it's so distinct too when you hear him. You're gonna be like, that is similar. But definitely check him out. Gregory Porter is phenomenal.
Excellent.
And when he comes here, you should definitely try to shoot that.
I'll try to get a photo pass.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And then subsequently, who is a local act that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to work with yet but would like to?
I'm fortunate to have photographed a lot of our local folks, especially in the past few years.
Maybe we can span just a little bit outside Seattle. Like maybe let's try like the Portland area. Or I mean, we're close enough to Canada. So if you know anybody that direction,
right. I might have to think on this one a little bit. We have so many talented local artists here, and I know in Portland too, and I've been fortunate to work with some folks from Portland recently too. Just great music scenes in both locations. Yes. So yeah, I'm not sure I can put a name on this. Okay. I just encourage folks to go out and see your local musicians. That's, I think, one of the biggest lessons of the pandemic is we have to support these scenes, and everyone needs support right now. So take advantage of what we've got here.
Well put. Now, this is one more kind of like gear related question.
Yeah.
Again, if money was no issue, what is one thing that you would upgrade, and what would it be? Or what would it be to?
It's funny you should ask, because I'm going to go check out this gear later today, and it's definitely out of my price range, and who knows what might happen at the camera store.
I know how that goes.
There's a new macro lens for the mirrorless system that I'm using. It's ungodly expensive, and from what I've seen online, it's just gorgeous. You can change the bokeh. So you can have the big circles, or you can have the kind of wavy lines. I just want to try it out. So I might rent this lens.
I was just about to ask if that's like an option for places to kind of give you a feel of like how it works in your setting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Do you know the model name? Can you plug it on here?
No, I can't pull it out off the top of my head. But
that's all right.
Yeah, it's Canon's new top of the line model that works with all the mirrorless
That's
systems.
exciting. That's exciting.
I'll let you know.
Definitely have to let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
Leave a comment on the top. Be like, guys, I got the lens. And now, as we're all students of our craft, what is something that you're currently learning or wanting to know more about that you either haven't done, or like you found out there's a new way of doing it? What's something that's new and exciting to you?
For sure. I am trying to learn more about flash photography more generally. I hadn't shot a lot with flash. Most of my work has been with natural light, just existing light. In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's harder, because you show up at the venue and that's what you get. You can't usually use the flash. That's not true at a lot of the punk and garage and similar shows. Yep. And if you want to catch that action shot, the jump shot, the person really digging in, you really need a flash. So trying to balance the cool background light that some venues have with enough light to catch the action. So
interesting.
Yeah, I'm working on getting better at that, and have really had fun trying out some of those shows, because they're just so full of action in a different way than jazz, which is really facial expression.
Yes, very
It's
moody, very coordinated outfits.
Sometimes, yeah.
Now, do you do a lot of because again, you photographed Herbie Hancock. Yeah, there was. What did you do just recently at the church with the synthesizer work? Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Absolutely, yes. So that was Suzanne Ciani, and she's a synthesizer. I don't know.
Wizard.
Wizard
Yes.
is exactly the word. Yeah. So she's been in this industry forever. I think she's 76 now.
Wow.
So just a real pioneer and great composer. So yes, I covered her event there, and it was just unreal.
And where was it at?
It was at the Seattle Baptist Church. And so, picture a place with stained glass, it just looks like a church. It's really large and overwhelming, and it has a real presence about it.
I was looking at the pictures, and I just thought they were incredible. At first, I saw the stained glass one, so I was like, oh wow, she's doing inside building for, and then I swiped over, I was like, oh wow, it just looked like such an experience. Now it looked like people got to go up and actually look at her setup. Was
Yes.
she performing as well? Did she do a whole installment or?
Yeah. So it was a concert. It had a light show associated with it.
Oh, wow.
And afterward, she let people come up and look at the booklet, the synthesizer, this
That's
big
incredible.
modular synth.
Oh, yeah.
And wow, people were just crowded around it, asking questions. And she was so giving with her time and friendly and interested and asking people about themselves. I was just really overwhelmed by her approachability.
I think as musicians reach a certain not age per se, but a certain point in time in their music career, especially when you're no longer held in on what you do, and you can just put it out there and interact with people.
Yeah.
It's I got to host, or I got to help run an event for Zach Wilde a few years back when I worked at Guitar Center. Shout out Guitar Center. And first of all, the nicest dude. We opened up the door, we opened up this rolling bay door was the only way to get in. He had to go up 4 ladder steps. And we opened the door. He's like, well, how the hell are you guys? The nicest dude. He kept asking people questions. His handler guy had to pull people away from him,
Wow.
not the other way around. They weren't like, oh my God, you're the best. And he's like, yeah. No, he's like, tell me about your favorite sport. Tell me about your kids this. Oh, you're in school now. What grade are you? It just...
Yep.
It was incredible. And, he's been doing it forever. So it's cool to see, just kind of circle back.
Yeah.
It's cool to see when people who create, musicians, artists, reach that point where they've settled into their craft so much that they want to re-exist with the world around them.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Now that kind of wraps up the bulk of the interviews. So let's do the closing up bits. What's coming up next?
Let's see. I am really excited to cover the Yeah Yeahs this upcoming week. So
Wow.
really looking forward to that. Yeah, I've been wanting to see them for a long time, and they're here in town. It should be just an amazing show.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
How can people connect with you? Go ahead and just at the camera, tell us your websites, your Instagrams, just ways people can get in touch with you or see your work.
For sure. Yes. So you can find my regular website. It's lisaglynn.com, lisaglynn.com. And then you can also read my blog, which is hardlyraining.com. So that's a Seattle music and culture site. And I cover, as I mentioned, a variety of music and other events, social justice, other things that are going on here in Seattle. And I think really reflect our local culture and interests. And then let's see, on Instagram, I'm Lisa Hagen Glynn, and I'm also hardly_raining. We had a little setup issue with the with the account, so you can find me at either of those, and I'd be happy to connect. And if you're a band in the area or coming to Seattle or nearby, please look me up. I'd love to work with you.
Now, any plugs, any shout outs, anybody you want to call out while you're on camera, or not call it, but anybody you want to say hello to, or just hype up while you're here?
Any grievances?
Yeah. No, we'll save those for the comments.
Sounds great. I want to ask folks to really come out and support the local music scene. That's really what Hardly Raining has been about. This is something that I started during the pandemic as a way to help bring people back to our music scene. I was fortunate to become vaccinated very early because of my day job, and got to get back out there. So part of what I've tried to do is bring that to people who couldn't get out. If they're immunocompromised, if they're not feeling safe yet, I still mask up at events, and that's one thing that has allowed me to feel safe and be out so many nights a week. And I think we're in a place that people can do that in most cases. So support your musicians, support your venues. We, I think, learned what we almost lost during the pandemic, and it would have been pretty devastating. So if I can give one message, see local music, also come out to touring acts. We want them to come back.
Yes, definitely. Wise words. Thank you. All right, now this is the last question. We ask everybody this. This is the fun way to end it.
Sure.
What is your guilty pleasure song?
Oh, wow. There are a lot of them. I was listening to some Guns N' Roses yesterday, and this is a controversial choice, I think, but I saw that they're coming back to town, and I was really rocking out to "A Sweet Child of Mine" when no one was home.
Somebody already picked Limp Bizkit as a guilty pleasure song, and so that. There's a new bar. There's a new bar for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, there are plenty of nostalgic hits that bring you back to a certain time or place in life, even if they're not a fit now.
Yes, definitely. All right, Lisa. Well, we have reached the end of this interview. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so exciting. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. And y'all, get me on here. Make sure to like, subscribe, attach everywhere. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube now. All at Jimmy's Jambox. Lisa gave us where you can find all of her stuff, so make sure to do that as well. We're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. This has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Lisa.
Signing off.